Hey folks, Jeremy with Glassworks. I want to show you how you can add a wrap to a piece by yourself. And while I have John in the shop today, I'm going to do this piece on my own, or at least the decorative wrap that we're going to add to it, because I want you to see it's totally possible to do this kind of work by yourself with just a little patience. Now I've already gotten my first and second gathers. I've already shaped the basic shape of our vase, and we're going to add a wrap to this. Now you can call this style of wrap many different things. I've heard it called a bird's nest or snail trail, a drizzle, spider web. I call it drizzle or spider web depending on the color pattern I'm using with it. We're just going to run a wrap of glass all over the surface of this. Now the key here is to control the shape of your piece while shaping that wrap at the same time. So I'm going to show you how that's doable. I'm not going to hang this up or set it down on the rails or stand it upright. I'm just going to keep it turning in my left hand. I do have a separate yoke over here that I can rest it on while I go in for my gather. So with my right hand, I will do all of my gathering and shaping, go into the furnace and gather up some glass. This is kind of an ugly gather, but I'm doing it one-handed and kind of blind. So because I'm keeping my eye mainly on my vase, not on the glass I'm gathering for the wrap as much. There we are. So normally I would shape that glass up and pull it off the pipe before I color it for a wrap, but in this case I'm worried about what's going on with that vase, so we will not worry so much about the shape of the wrap. Now I'm going to flash the vase while I'm melting in my color. I'm going to add 2 layers of color for this wrap. I use size 1 frit for this kind of thing because it does melt very quickly. Which makes it easy to work with. Now, to put on the wrap, I'm not going to spend a lot of time shaping it. I'm just going to go straight over to the bench and apply the wrap. In this case, heat is more important than shape. Sometimes I'll sit, sometimes I won't. In this case, I'm just going to stand. I usually attach the wrap to the moil so I can kind of gauge the stretch. And then for a bird's nest or a snail trail, I just sort of wrap it all over. I'm watching the way the glass is pulling off the wrap more than I'm watching anything else. I don't really care where it lands on the piece. Sometimes if I see a spot that could use more of the wrap, I'll go back and touch it up. But my concern is getting that attached. Now, I pull it off thin enough as I'm trailing it so that it just pulls away and I can snap the excess. I'm going to melt this glass in. Now, I'm not going to press it to the surface. I want texture, but oftentimes, if you leave it extremely textured, people will pick at the wrap. People like to pick at things that stick out, and that will break it. So instead of rolling it across the marble to flatten it, I will inflate the glass to push it into the wrap. Stretching that out. So I have my son in the shop today, and since he is here, even though I said I was going to be making this piece by myself, I'm going to have Malcolm come down and help me. Malcolm, do you want to come in and help me? Okay. So Malcolm is going to be my assistant for this piece. What he's going to do is he's going to keep the pipe turning. I have a pipe hanger right up here that I could clip the pipe into. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Yeah, say hi. Hi. I have a pipe hanger I could hang the pipe on while I create the foot for our vase, but instead Malcolm is going to turn the pipe. So Malcolm, can you stand right over here for me? Nope, right here where I'm pointing, bud. Thank you. Don't move because I don't want to hit you with hot glass, okay? All right, can you keep this pipe turning nice and slow for me? Both hands on the pipe and turn it, okay? Turn it that way. Keep turning. You got to turn. Good job. Keep it turning, bud. Okay, he'll keep that turning in some fashion. I'm going to go into the furnace, scoop up some more glass, turn it back the other direction, buddy. Go back and forth. Come back this way. There you go. Good job. I think this is Malcolm's. Yeah, no, not fast. Just nice and slow. This is Malcolm's first time helping me in the shop like this. He's done a few little things for me here and there. So while he's turning that pipe, I am going to drop this hot glass on the graphite pad over here. Keep turning, keep turning. You can't stop. Turn back the other direction. All right, that's good. I've got it now. Thank you very much. All right, buddy, say bye to everybody.
Bye.
All right, go sit next to your mother. So, all right, so it stayed sort of on center. We're going to attach that to a foot. And because I don't want to be bothered to fight to get this on center, I'm not really going to flatten this foot. I'm going to texture it with my tweezers. So I'm going to grab a pair of tweezers. I'm going to twist up the bottom of the foot. There we are. Using, well, not my tweezers, these are John's tweezers. I don't know where mine are. I'm going to twist this up, and I will have to go back and cold work this. I don't like cold working. I hate cold working with a passion, but sometimes it's necessary. And when your piece gets off center like this, I could spend 10 minutes pushing it back on center before I made the foot, but it's just not necessary. I will make sure I put a deep dimple in the bottom. That is going to make it easier to flatten it and cold work it later. So now we're going to remove this from the pipe. Now, because of the way we put the wrap on across the jack line, there's going to be a lot of inconsistency up there. In fact, it's going to break off real ugly. But I use that to help create the final shape. So I'm going to go back into the furnace and get my punny now. I'm going to do this the same way I did the wrap. One-handed, I'll go in and I'll gather. And you can absolutely make a punny with one hand. So I hold it up to let that glass flow. I push it forward across them over. I usually brace it against my hip. And then turn and use friction to push and shape. There we go. There's our punny. I'm going to set that down, kind of try to find the high spot. Again, I'm not too terribly worried about making sure this is straight, but I do want to make sure the punty is centered to the bottom of the piece. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a donut punny. I don't use this style very often. I'm going to attach this here on the bottom. Now, if this is too hot when it goes on, it'll permanently fuse. If it was too cold, it will fall off the piece when I remove the piece from the pipe. So hopefully I did this correctly. We're going to drop some water on this, especially on those wraps that stick out over the jack line. And hopefully I can do this with just a gentle tap and it pops right off. Like I said, it's going to be an ugly break. I knew that going in. That's okay. The wraps that aren't attached at the top, they will get fused in as we open it. There's still a lot of movement in the punty. That's good because I want to be able to reposition the vase on the punty if that's necessary, though I'm usually pretty good at sticking it centered. And because I know I'm going to cold work this anyway, I'm not extremely worried about making sure everything is perfectly perpendicular to the pipe. As long as it's really close, it's good enough. Now I'm getting the top half of this really hot, and I'm going to stretch that open with the blades of my jacks. I'm not even going to trim it, even though I know it broke off ugly. I'm going to use that uneven shape at the top to help create an asymmetrical ruffle once I open this. If I wanted a nice, crisp, clean, round opening, I would definitely want to trim this, and I would need somebody to paddle the opening while I open it, because all the wraps make it very inconsistent in thickness and temperature. So I'm going to angle it down to the ground to stretch it just a little bit as I move over. I got my nice new cutting edge jacks. We're going to go in here and stretch that open. Now that was not hot enough to get all the way open. That's okay. I do have one little wrap that's being difficult. I'm going to cut it and then pull it up and lay it back down. And then probably just trim that little excess off. Now, that'll all melt back together and it won't matter, but it didn't fuse in as I opened it. It was the only spot that didn't. So we're just going to help that along. Now, I should get this hot enough here to finish opening it all the way up, and then one more heat to ruffle that top edge when I'm done. Every once in a while, I will heat the whole thing up. We, of course, want to make sure that it stays warm enough that that foot doesn't break. You're probably hearing the leaf blower in the background right now. They're very serious here at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair about cleaning up the leaves before every weekend. Back on to stretch this open. There we are, flaring that out. Very good. Now we're going to do a soft ruffle, maybe a soft sling. We'll see how it wants to open up. It's real thick, which I don't normally work thick, but in this particular case, my ovens aren't set up today for cooling down large pieces. So instead, we're going to make this a little bit on the shorter side. So it's children invading the shop day today, which is fine. I love having the kids in the shop. They're not usually here when we record. So, all right, got that flared open. Gonna spin it out. So you see that one side pulling out more because that's where that wrap was thicker. And I'm giving it just a soft sling. I'm only gonna go around aggressively a couple times to pull it and then spin it back open. I need to make sure that this thing is short enough that it will fit in my cooling oven. It's probably not going to go in this one. Oh yeah, it'll barely fit. Okay, so that's our finished piece. There's a couple spots I'm going to tend to real quick. There's a real thin spot right there in the wrap that could possibly come apart and be a little sharp spot, so I'm going to clean that up. What I'll do, I'll talk a little bit about the cooling here. We're going to cool this piece over a 14-hour period overnight tonight, and when I'm all done working, that's when I start that cooling process. So everything that I'm making today will cool very slowly overnight this evening. So I'm just going to melt away those two little spots where it could be sharp. I don't see any other potential dangerous issues here. I don't see anything else that looks potentially sharp. So I think we're pretty good. I'm going to remove this from the punty and put it away to cool down. And then I'll talk to you just for a second afterwards. There we go. Well, that came right off. Unexpected to come off so quick and easy. That punty was just barely attached. I wasn't ready at all for that. Now, I'm going to warm up these gloves. They have not been used today, so they are very cold and slightly damp, and I don't want to shock the piece by grabbing it with cold, damp gloves, but there we are. Now, at the end of the process, I'm putting this into a 900-degree oven, as I said already, so I'm not going to go back into that. But we are doing something here. We're launching our YouTube channel, and we're putting these videos out there. So if you like the video, if you enjoyed what you saw, like the video, subscribe. That would be very helpful. We're trying to build up our viewer base. And we're going to try something. I don't know how well this works. There are cards we can add at the end for other videos. So I think they should be right about here. I'm not sure how that works exactly. But there will be cards in this general area that you can click on for other videos to watch. All right, folks. Thanks. Have a great day.